Carr. At the moment, gold, US dollars looks weak right now. It has some underlying support around the 1275 zone, but if we take out that level, you can see we've got underlying support there. This has been a major zone previously of resistance, but if we were to get a move and a break back below 1275 and break below that, I see just clean air here for a drop on gold. Ultimately, I'm also interested in buying pullbacks on gold, so certainly coming back to areas of value between 1260 down to 1240. If we were to get a pullback towards these zones, I would be interested in certainly picking up another position here. But I do believe short term, gold is vulnerable to a correction here, particularly if it takes out the weekly lows. And also, if we go over to the weekly chart, you can see this quite clearly. The weekly chart, although we gapped on the open, we spiked to the highs here, breaking out to 1,295 US dollars per ounce. If it closes this week below that major trend channel, this is a weekly chart going back to the highs here from Brexit. If it can't close above this level, again, it's vulnerable to a corrective move lower. And also, seasonality wise, you're at a time of year where gold typically puts in a top. So then a lot of other markets, it tracks its seasonality incredibly well. I mean, we've been monitoring this for a while now. The fact that we would likely put in a top around this week due to it being a period where normally gold does put in a top, unless obviously geopolitical tension heats up again. That is the wild card here. But right now, I would suggest gold overbought short term. It's chopping around a little bit. It's finding support around the 1275 zone. If we take that level out, if it gets breached to the downside today, again, I'm tracking gold euro here as well, because if gold euro really picks up momentum to the downside, that will likely see an acceleration to the downside, and gold versus the US dollar would also very likely give way as well. So I'm watching that very carefully right now. You can see a little bit of an inverse hammer on the daily chart at the moment. If we break below the low, break below support, I don't see much support then for gold until 1260. So it could be quite a nice clean slice lower, breakdown in price, and then we would likely get supported around this underlying level here, around the 1260 to 1240 zone. But we'll see. We still need to see a little bit more price action over the US session today, see whether we do break support. But ultimately, gold looking at a bit of a contrarian view at the moment and looking for a potential short-term move lower on gold. Now, moving over to, we'll move over, in fact, to silver, and then we'll go over also to, so silver at the moment is looking a little bit ropey here for silver as well. It's pulling back. It hasn't really been convincing, this breakout above the highs here going back to November. So we didn't quite close at above the 1850 zone, although it managed to breach up to that zone. It had a spike high, but hasn't really managed to follow through. Again, at the beginning of the week, gapped on the open, filled the gap, and it's not that encouraging for the bulls at the moment that it's not managed to hold above that level. And we're also seeing some corrective action on silver. I do note that a lot of these corrective moves so far on silver have been bid back up. But again, if you take out of the equation the current geopolitical conditions, this time of year, as we transition from April through to May, is usually not a strong time for the metals. But of course, that depends on the fundamental backdrops and what happens as well in the coming days geopolitically and with the French elections at the weekend. But right now, throughout the US session, as we go into this afternoon, it is vulnerable to another corrective move lower. I could see silver potentially, if it's already broken below yesterday, there you go, look, starting to get a bit of a breakdown. In fact, let's have a look. If silver's just taken out that low, let's just have a look at the pricing here. What's gold doing? 1277. But there you go. So silver looking vulnerable here right now. Let's just quickly flip that back. Gold euro coming down as well. So you can see that it's looking vulnerable at the moment. Overall, there's this correlation, of course, between gold and silver. Both of these markets tend to move in tandem, although any given point in time, if you do trade gold and silver, you want to be watching closely the gold to silver ratio. Now, at the moment, it favors gold over silver. So silver is slightly weaker than gold right now on the gold to silver ratio. So essentially, if you're buying one of the two, you want to be buying gold versus silver right now. And if you're looking to sell one of the two, well, in fact, I would suggest gold euro is the weaker of these markets right now, which would be the best one to sell. But I do expect that to follow through potentially to gold as well. So